welcome back to another video. So first of all, if you're new here, my name is Elle. Welcome. I make videos about living in New York City on a budget, living intentionally, and generally showing you the real side of living here and just the real side of life. We like to be real around here. We don't like to sugarcoat anything. We talk all things self-development, lifestyle, routines. So if that sounds good to you, don't forget to subscribe. But today we are going to talk about home decor and apartments. And I'm so excited because I have spent the past few weeks redecorating my apartment, specifically the living room, also a little bit the other rooms. My boyfriend moved in a couple months ago and I used to live with roommates, but now we have this space to ourselves. And so honestly, it was kind of an excuse for me to kind of like go into a redecorating frenzy. So I specifically want to talk about how to decorate a small/dark apartment, and I also want to show you how to do all of that on a budget. I live in Brooklyn, and a lot of us don't necessarily get to live in bright, large apartments with giant windows. A lot of us live in those kind of like awkward railroad apartments where especially the living room or the kitchen areas don't get a lot of light. So for example, in this apartment, we only have a skylight. This is the most common and real state of this living room. It's pretty dark, but I have made it a cozy and comfortable and beautiful space. And I want to share all of my tips with you today so you can do the same thing with your apartment. So without further ado, I have 10 tips for you today. My first tip is to choose light furniture as a base for your apartment, especially for the rooms that are darker. So for example, I chose to have a white couch. I know that sounds a little bit risky, but if I can do it, you can too. I have a black lab who sheds a lot, so believe me, it's possible. What I would recommend is actually to get one where you can wash the cover. This is an IKEA couch. I believe it's the Upland. I've had this couch for like over 3 years and it's still holding up pretty well. And then apart from the couch, I also have a white TV stand and, you know, shelves. The coffee table is also pretty light colored. And then the furniture that, you know, apart from the kitchen that we have for the most part in this space is also white or off-white. So I would say that's like the best base to work with. Apart from choosing light colored furniture, my second tip is actually to not be afraid to fill the space. Sometimes we might think that adding too many things might make the space look smaller, but most of the time it actually makes it look bigger because it gives every corner a purpose. It utilizes the space better and it makes it appear bigger. In my apartment, we actually created little corners and little, you know, spaces everywhere, which we used to only have this couch and a coffee table. And I started adding some, you know, this corner, for example, has a side table with some books and a little light. We have added a little ottoman on this side with a lamp, which creates another little, you know, nook. So once you have that well-filled, light-colored base, my third tip is going to be to add accent objects. And this is where the color is going to come into play. So that's going to include cups, pitchers, bowls, vases, you name it, all the like glassware. But that's also going to include things like throw blankets, throw pillows, frames, and wall art also fall into that category of accent objects. All of these like little elements are gonna add in some colors and also character to your space, and they're also gonna make it you. Because, you know, I have some objects like this bowl, for example, is one that I have made myself at a bachelor party where we did like a pottery class. So this is kind of random, but you know, you want to add things that make it feel you. So one way to find accent objects for cheap, and my favorite way, is to go to antique stores Antique stores in New York City can get a little expensive, but I will list in the description below some of the ones that are my favorite that I go to that I usually find treasures at for a really low price. There's this kind of like stone lamp that I found for $15, frames that I found for like framed wall art that I found for under $20. I feel like finding things at antique stores also kind of make the decision-making process much easier. I don't know about you, but I personally find it very overwhelming sometimes to be on some stores' websites and you have like 10 pages of choices and you don't really know what to choose, whereas when you're in an antique store and you find something that's pretty and beautiful, you just get it and that's it. You know, to me it's overwhelming. Like some e-commerce websites are overwhelming because there's too much choice. Speaking of accent objects, this one has its own category because I feel like it's such an underrated tip to decorate, and that is books. And obviously coffee table books are known to be used as a way to decorate a space, but even regular books, like just adding books on your shelves is like the easiest way to decorate a space. To me, it makes it feel elevated, it makes it feel elegant, and you know what? If on top of everything you're reading those books, then that's just an added bonus. Books are also super easy and super cheap to find. You can find a bunch in like charity stores, thrift stores, antique stores. When people move out, they will sometimes leave a bunch of books on the sidewalk in like boxes, so I've definitely acquired books that way. The coffee table books also look really cool. I have a few like art books, design books. I love the Taschen books. They're not necessarily affordable. Some of them are pretty cheap. Honestly, I have acquired some that are like $20, and it's also a great gift idea. Like if you want to tell people to get you Taschen books, that's what I do for the holidays and for my birthday. Usually that's what I'll ask for. Moving on to my next tip, which is lighting. A lot of people know that lighting is very important, but I feel like it's even more important if you have a not very well lit space. You know, if we can't have a super bright apartment, we might as well make it cozy and create a nice ambiance with some really cool lights. I found this lamp on Amazon. Again, a lot of things that I mentioned I'll link in the description below, but if I forgot to link anything, don't hesitate to ask me in the comments. But yeah, so adding different sources of lights with different like moods throughout the room or throughout your apartment will also help with creating a really cozy and inviting space. Tip number 6 is one that I literally won't shut up about, and that is choosing the right rug. And I know that seems like such an obvious one, but I feel like it's not talked about enough. Choosing the right rug can completely change your entire space. I wish that this video was sponsored by them because I've bought so many rugs from them, but I love Ruggable. They make washable rugs and they have so many options, so many choices. Again, I have a pet, so washable rug is amazing. It makes such a difference in making the space feel inviting, and again, helps with that feeling of the space being utilized and filled. So I actually had a rug for this living room that was a little bit too small for a while, and then I got a slightly larger rug that fits the space better, and let me tell you that it completely changed what the room feels like. It just creates more of a like living area. It just really feels inviting and nice, and I love a rug. Like, I don't know, I'm obsessed with rugs. For my 7th tip, I want to talk about plants and flowers. Plants and flowers are very important and really bring life to a space, to a room. In this living room, again, because it is pretty dark, it's hard to find a plant that will live and survive without that much natural light. But I do regularly add some flowers. I change up my flowers every week. I love lilies. They're my favorite flowers. I feel like they're so elegant and beautiful. And also I have a bunch of little cacti. My tip is to get your flowers and some of like the cacti from Trader Joe's. They're super cheap and they have them all the time. My other tip for plants is to go to Lowe's or Home Depot. They have the same plants that you'll find in more expensive plant stores in Brooklyn for like half the price, if not a third of the price. Get your plant there and get yourself a nice little pot somewhere else. Again, maybe a thrift store, Facebook Marketplace. My 8th tip, and I feel like this is gonna be a controversial one, but it's to get knockoffs of your favorite design items or your favorite design furniture. Listen, I'm an interior design lover, and I would love to have the real version of a lot of design furniture and items, but we don't all have the money to get that. And also living in a rental kind of like makes me not necessarily want to get those things right now because I might move a lot by then. Once I have my own house and a little bit more budget, I will definitely get myself a real Togo chair. But at the moment, I got one knockoff from Amazon that is pretty damn good quality for the price that it was. It's not the end of the world. Maybe one day you can save up to get the real one, but in the meantime, they have some pretty good dupes. You gotta do what you gotta do if you don't want to spend a lot of money. Which kind of leads me into tip number 9, which is, and this is gonna be going a little bit against what I just said, but it's all gonna make sense in the end. Splurge on the things that matter to you and make you happy. I'm gonna give you one example. These throw blankets, because this is not the only one I have paid good money for. Those are about $100 a piece. They are made to order, handmade, woven throw blankets that I love the design of. Those are from the brand CLR, 2 times CLR. And I have bought these throw blankets for a few years now. I have like literally a collection of them. So that's one thing, but generally, you know, if there are things that make you really happy, then save on the rest and splurge on those if it matters to you and if it helps with making your space look and feel better, then you should go for it. And if you save on everything else, you know, it makes sense. My final tip, and in my opinion, the most important one is, and I don't even know if that's a proper tip of more of a statement, but it is okay if your apartment doesn't look like a magazine. Apartments and houses are meant to be lived in. They're not always gonna look perfect. They're not always gonna look coherent. Not everything is going to match or be perfectly aligned. You just kind of want to make it feel like someone actually lives there. You can have pictures, you can have mail on your coffee table, you could have a bunch of things on your fridge. My fridge is a collection of things that I love, of cards that I got from people, of invitations. There's a random calendar and pictures of all of me and my friends. We have a whole area where we have a bunch of tote bags and things that are just useful and practical. And that to me is also what makes an apartment and a space charming, is because it looks lived in. I feel like sometimes I personally have done that, where I put a lot of pressure on things looking perfect, but it's okay for things to not look perfect. So I encourage you to make your space feel like you, to make it feel comfortable, whatever that means to you. We all have different styles. We all have different objects that remind us of things. And at the end of the day, you just want to come home to a space that feels like home. So that concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you found some tips for yourself to decorate your own space, regardless of the space you have, regardless of how well lit it is. And also stay tuned for an apartment tour that will come in soon. So if you want to see that, again, don't forget to subscribe. And thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you in the next one.